We literally build a Shark Tank schedule around the Mavs so that we don't shoot when we shoot in the summer in June and we shoot in September, and I can't be there for draft day, and I have to. So all the schedule is all built around the Mavs.
We can have Dirk join you on the show now that he's got some free time. What's going on there?
He's just eating ice cream.
He's eating ice cream. Has he gained a couple of pounds?
Oh my God! So if you see pictures of him now, if he's got a suit on, those buttons are getting pulled apart further and further and further. So I'm only doing this interview because I like listening to you guys yell at each other, and so I just want to hear some yelling.
Who usually wins those arguments?
Neither of you. You both sound like
whoever takes your side. All right,
Right?
that's who wins. But what is it going to be like around Dallas this year without him?
Oh, it'll be completely different, obviously. Yeah, it'll be weird the first day going into camp, and just not having him around. And Dirk's been 80 years old since he was 21, and so he just settles everything down. He's got a unique sense of humor. He knows how to get guys excited and motivate them, and so it's gonna be different. It'll be hard.
I was able to watch you send them away, and how classy was that? That was tremendous.
Took everything I had not to just bawl my eyes out.
Yeah.
And I still get emotional when I think about it. It was a tough night. But I was happy for him. He jacked up like 90 shots. So,
yeah.
And the crazy part was his ankle's so messed up, he had to get shots for those last two games just because he knew that he was going to be just shooting it every time he touched it. So I was happy the way it turned out for him.
And you said the door is open for him to do whatever he wanted to do in the
wants.
organization. Has he decided what he wanted to do yet?
No, I don't think he knows. You know better than anybody. Guys go through that adjustment after you're gone all the time, you're traveling, you have a schedule, and now he's got 3 young kids, right? Everything changes, from having a set schedule and getting ready for camp to, okay, Daddy, where's my Cheerios? It's night and day. And so yeah, I'm sure he's a great dad. He's going to spend time enjoying that, and then we'll figure it out.
And you got the guy that was in New York and was compared to him, ready to take over as soon as he's out. So
oh yeah,
so Porzingis.
Yeah, we're excited. I mean, this will be, just going forward, having Luka and KP both under 24 years old, 20 and just turned 24, is going to be a big change for us. It's exciting. So, yeah, I mean, they're 2 great cornerstones.
What's that reaction when you got the phone call and you found out that he was available to you guys?
Pull the trigger. don't ask questions. Say yes. It's one of those things like, that all year long teams trade calls, look at each other's roster, and you're like, well, if you're ever going to trade, no, we're not going to trade. If you're ever going to trade, no. If you're ever going to, all of a sudden, okay, we're ready. You ready? And it was just like, yes. Don't pass go. Don't collect $200. Just yes.
It's just funny you just said that because he and I were just talking in the last segment about ownership and how valuable that is, behind the GM making those decisions. And you just said immediately that's what I wanted to do. And we were just talking about Steve Ballmer and the fact that even though something was presented to him that seemed like it was just really above crazy at one point in time, he's like, no, that's Kawhi.
Yeah.
Go get him.
Well, you still get scared, right? The job, your general manager hopefully is a great talent evaluator, right? Because that's the hardest thing. You can bring in analytics all you want, but evaluating talent is hard. Mm-hmm. One guy thinks he's a superstar, but knowing the difference, and we have Donnie Nelson for that, and he's amazing at it. But the job of the owner is to balance the short term versus the long term. And so, we gave up picks. The Clippers gave up 97 first-round picks, And so you go in and you hope, but then, you never know until you play the games. Guys get hurt. It's like the old days with Penny and Grant Hill. Mm-hmm. Put together 2 superstar free agents and then 2 injuries, and the whole franchise has changed.
Yeah.
So you got to hope for good luck as well.
Yeah, and the Clippers got some this year, and in getting Kawhi, but we also see Paul George go out there. We see Jimmy Butler go to Miami.
Yep.
We see Durant and Kyrie go to New York. LeBron last year to L.A. It seems like everybody's going to these destination markets: Miami, New York, and L.A. How do owners feel about that?
I don't care. I mean, they still got to win the games, right? You still got to put together a team, and it becomes challenging. But it also teaches you that you've got to keep your own players happy. Those guys are leaving for a reason. Who knows what they are? Sometimes it's go play closer to home, but if they would have been thrilled to death, hopefully they would have stayed. And so keeping signing our own guys, keeping them happy, putting together an organization and culture that keeps them engaged and wanting to stay. All that movement just shows you that becomes more of a priority. I mean, you saw Paul George go to Oklahoma City from Indy and be thrilled to death, right? Until he wasn't. And so it's just a never-ending process of keeping them happy. And, in terms of the movement. I think it's great for the NBA. Now instead of having one super team that everybody's trying to beat and then LeBron's an attraction, now we've got a bunch of super teams. And even those super teams only have 2 superstars, right? None of them really have 3 that I've been able to count. And so, it takes a little bit of luck, and it takes building a team.
Yeah, so you do think the movement is good for the league?
I don't have a problem with it at all.
Do you think the trend of signing a contract and then wanting out well before it's over is good for the league?
Again, it's like any other job. It's like any other company. I've had companies where I've had great AI scientists want to leave, and you got to work to keep them. It's their right, to do what they think is right for their career. But like any employer in any company, it's my job to try to keep them happy. And you're not going to win 100% of those battles, but at least I can try.
And it seems like, obviously you love competition. When the Suns come play, you're out there working on
screaming and yelling. Oh, yeah, I get out there.
I see you out there.
I get out there and
jump
shoot,
shot.
man.
And you're very
Ball
competitive.
is life. Ball is life.
And you know the art of the deal and business better than anybody. And so that's a challenge, obviously, for owners now that players are trying to take a little bit more control of themselves. And so it's a back and forth.
Well, the NBA for a long, long time, certainly before I got involved, has been a talent-driven league. If you look at the NFL, it's about the NFL. Right, you couldn't recognize, more than 3 of 53 players in any NFL team. The NHL, it's hard to recognize. Major League Baseball, the same thing. The one league where the talent drives everything is the NBA. And so when you're the star of the show, and rightfully the players are, you're going to have a lot more power. And I don't have a problem with that. It creates more pressure on ownership and management to put together an organization, but that's what we're supposed to do. Right, we expect the players to go out there and bust their ass to be prepared physically and mentally and emotionally and deal with the stress and the pounding. Well, on the flip side, we've got to do our jobs as well. We can't just expect, okay, we write you a check, you just show up. It's real world. We've got to keep them happy too.
Now, you don't have a problem with it. You talk to other owners. Do other owners around the league have an issue with it?
I don't care. I really don't. I mean, it's funny because you got the Supermax because small town teams wanted to be able to keep their players. And now, what's the way it's turned out, if a Supermax guy, regardless of which teams and which market, gets injured, that $40 million contract turns into a real problem because it's hard to recover, particularly if it's a longer term injury. And so you got to be careful what you ask for sometimes. And so, there's a lot of things that play, but again, we're a talent driven league. And as long as our talent comes in and performs, then I got no problem. Now, if they were underperforming and guys were just lollygagging and weren't putting in the effort and weren't competitive, that'd be different. But guys put their lives on the line.
And you didn't get
I like the little hand signals going on.
Yeah,
my turn, your turn, my turn, your turn.
And I'm ignoring them.
Kind of like husband, wife,
You see how I'm ignoring them, right? But you didn't really get overly aggressive this off.
Oh, yeah, we did.
Well.
Yeah, we did.
Not
now
your
you're
way.
fighting instead of me.
Yeah, right.
Go ahead.
Hell yeah, we did. Come on, Eddie. Yeah.
Well,
he didn't.
I think you normally get what you
He's
want.
used to it.
Yeah, not even right. But our first and foremost was keeping our existing free agent, or keeping our guys, right?
Right.
That's most important because, we can go look for the prettier person on the other side of the street, but if you don't keep your guys, you don't have a squad.
Right.
Right. And there's value to bringing somebody in, but you get that what Nelly used to call corporate knowledge. The longer you keep a team together, then the better they know how to play with each other. And so there's a value there. And plus, we have 2 really young, hopeful cornerstones, right? And so it's more about keeping all those guys together and building together. And so, yeah, we were interested in Kemba. That was the one name associated with it we were interested in. And, we didn't expect Al Horford to opt out. Who knew that would happen? And so when he decided to stay closer to home and go to Boston, well, we had to adjust. And, after Kemba, when Kemba wasn't really going to be available, the start of free agency, our first call literally was DeLon Wright because we wanted somebody that could defend next to Luka. And most of our guys, particularly our ones and twos, were walk-it-up guys. DeLon's a downhill guy who can defend multiple positions. We'll work with him some on the shot, but he's a great finisher. He can get to the rim. He'll make the play. He helps make his other teams better, his teammates better, and that's what we were looking for. Because trying to get Luka to guard point guards, it's not going to work. And so, and with Jalen Brunson, he did a great job as a rookie, and he'll get better. But his strength still is he's still learning to stay in front of guys. DeLon is there, and DeLon's a passer, creator. But now we'll start 6'5" will be our smallest guy in the starting lineup. That changes who we are.
Yeah, and you said something about it being a star-driven league, right? And one of the things we saw in Toronto was them taking care of their star in a different way. With the load management, takes 22 games off. How do you think that is going to affect your team and league-wide, guys sitting out games in the future?
Well, I mean, it's a great question because when you have two maxed out guys, and even worse if they're super max. So, the 9 plus, the 6 to 9 years, I forget the range, the 32.7, right? You put two of those together, so now you're at 65.4 out of a $109 million cap. So you've got to build, and you can go over the cap obviously, but you've got to build a team with a much smaller budget, particularly if you brought that player in as a free agent under cap room, right? So you're limited in how many people you can add. Now the Clippers were in good shape because they had a lot of lower end contracts, right? But they kind of sold their future as a result. So it's harder to build a team when you're bringing in two free agents like that, or one free agent in a trade at that dollar level. And so when you talk about load management, if you don't really have a full complement of players and you're keeping your star player load managed, that creates challenge. Now the beauty for Toronto was they had a better record without Kawhi than they did with Kawhi. So they had a good squad, particularly in the Eastern Conference. So now you've got these two-star teams that gave up everything to do it through free agency. Can they build a decent team around them? That's the challenge. And so you see teams like Golden State going all in on D'Lo, and he's a great player, right? But now they're hard capped. We did a sign and trade to get DeLon. We're hard capped as well at the 138, but we've got more space to work with. I mean, because we only we didn't have like the $32 million free agents.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, I was just gonna follow up on that.
Picking.
You wanted me to touch.
You're
You
gonna
said
really
picky.
see an
I got
argument
it.
here.
All right, very good. I'll probably lose that one. I win the mental battles. He wins the physical ones.
I don't know.
Do you think we'll see guys as a result of this sitting out around the league?
Of course. I mean, look, KP coming back from an injury, we're going to certainly load manage him, right? And we saw what Kawhi did, and Kawhi was still banged up in the finals after all of that. You can see him limping. I mean, and you can argue about the injuries with Golden State and what the length of the season and all those all those playoff runs, how it cumulatively impacted their health, we don't know. But yeah, you're going to see load management more and more and more. And the league was smart in just saying you can't do it on big TV games and you can't do it on the road. You have to do it at home.
So how about this plan to shorten the season?
I mean, there's good and bad to it, right? On one side, it makes each game more impactful and it takes some of the beating off of the players in terms of the length of the season. But on the other side, it's money. The players get 51%. And so if you reduce the number of games by whatever percentage and you reduce the amount of money that comes from television and sponsorships, someone's getting paid less. And so if you're making $20 million, do you want to take a third less? Or do you want to play the more games and play a third more? I'd play a third more and take the extra money, right? But that's me.
Is it something, though, maybe every couple of years you all would probably try and do this, like in-season tournament instead of being every year?
I'm not a fan of the in-season tournaments at all.
Okay.
I know a lot of guys are talking about it. It's not my vote alone. But, I mean, you just get too many law of unintended consequences. You have an in-season tournament. You win it. Great. Now what? Right? You celebrate. Your season's done. You've accomplished something. Unless there's a whole boatload of money at stake, what happens is the winner actually loses because they don't have as much rest.
Exactly.
Right? So now all of a sudden we won the midseason tournament, but we wore out the end of the year. That creates a lot of unintended consequences that I think are going to be really, really, really tough.
All right, last one, we'll let you get going. We had Rich Paul on here just yesterday. Rich Paul, the clutch agent, LeBron's agent, big-time agent.
I'll look him up.
You'll look him up, okay.
No, I like Rich.
No, you do. Okay, so I was just going to ask you that because he came on and said that he doesn't feel sometimes that he's viewed fairly around the league. How do you think that Rich Paul is viewed, and how do you view him?
I mean, like any agent, you're only as good as the players you have and their free agency. Again, it's a player-driven league, and agents are active, and they'll do their best to convince you how, their guy is the next LeBron and how, he can play well with this guy. I've had agents call me and say, well, yeah, this guy's usage percentage, and he dominated the ball on this team, but he doesn't really need the ball, right? So he'd compliment Luka or KP or what. That's their job. But I think Rich is well respected. But every agent, there's a lot of really good agents. They do their best for their guys, and it comes down to the owners and the organization and the general managers making the final call.
How do you feel about your team this year? This West is loaded, right?
West is loaded.
It's loaded with teams
but I
maybe
still
not
think
projected to make the playoffs.
I mean, but I still think it's wide open. I mean, Utah obviously got better. Denver's still good. The teams in the playoffs are still good, but health and you got to be healthy. And I think if our young guys continue to improve, Luka will be better, and we're adding KP. If we would have just signed KP as an unrestricted free agent, right, or a restricted free agent from the Knicks December, everybody would have been talking about, oh, you guys did great, right? You guys got one of the big names, and we did that during the season, and now he'll be back, and I think we've got a lot of really good players that'll get better. It's still a team game, and you still got to run your 8, 9, 10 guys out there over the course of a game, and while two guys can really dominate, as they get older, Father Time's still undefeated, and otherwise you'd still be playing, right?
Exactly.
I wish he was. I wouldn't have to deal with it. So let's put it that way. In fact, can you sign him to a contract here?
I'll call you. I'll have your agent call me, right?
All right, okay.
Mark, really appreciate it, as
Thanks,
always.
guys.
Thanks a lot.
Mark.
Keep on arguing, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.